Hey everyone, it's Mike here from Clicked Marketing. And for those of you that are not aware, there is a Facebook group put together by SEMrush for its paying members called SEMrush All Stars. And inside that Facebook group, they've asked me once a week to share a tip or some sort of insight from my years of experience doing search engine marketing. And the tip that I shared there, I do it every Tuesday. The tip that I shared there today was too good that I thought I need to make a video about this and share it on the channel here also. If you are a paying subscriber to SEMrush and you're not yet a member of the SEMrush All Stars group, I would recommend joining. There's a lot of good conversations that go on in there, and a lot of other people sharing tips and ideas. Also, I'll put a link down below to that group. And if you don't use SEMrush, I would highly encourage you to check it out. It's my favorite suite of tools as far as search engine marketing goes. And I'll put a link down below where you can get a free 2-week trial of the software. Anyhow, the tip today was about link placement and kind of about the strength of links and where links are on a page has a role in their how strong of a link they are. Now, there's a ton of factors that Google uses for determining the strength of a link, but in really simple terms, a good kind of general rule of thumb is to think of it like reading a book. It goes from left to right, top to bottom, and links at the top of the page that the search engine bot as it's crawling the page encounters first are going to be stronger than links at the bottom of the page. This is why links in like navigation are a lot stronger than links in the footer of a page. And like I said, it's just a general rule of thumb. It doesn't take into account anchor text and content surrounding a link and all those other factors that play a role in how much a link helps its target page to rank. But just general rule of thumb as far as the strength of links go, links at the top of the page are stronger than links at the bottom of the page. Now, keeping that in mind, one thing I get asked a lot by people is, are there any good books out there or video courses or YouTubers that I'd recommend following to learn SEO? And the one answer I always have for people is go look in the SERPs. You know, all the answers, all your questions about SEO are pretty much answered in the SERPs. The SERPs Google SERPs kind of like a big laboratory where all the testing's already been done. You just need to go in there and find the answers. And doesn't mean I'm against testing. You absolutely, if you have the resources to do testing, do it. But not everyone does. And if you just take a look at what high-ranking pages are doing and high-ranking sites and tear apart those sites, you can learn a lot about SEO and be way ahead of most of your competitors and other SEOs just by doing that. And this is an idea that I learned actually just from that exact concept years and years ago. I was tearing apart Wikipedia pages. You can learn a lot about SEO from looking at what Wikipedia does. And Wikipedia, yes, they're a high authority site. They get tons of links. But what really takes them to the next level is what they do on their pages. And this is an example of that. So if you take a look at a typical Wikipedia page, you'll notice that they have their navigation along the left side column here. And then they also have these links at the top of the page. They have one about the article. They have talk. You can view the history of this particular article. They have logins, contributors, link to create an account. All of these links, in the case of Wikipedia, the navigation and these links at the top of the page really play no value in SEO. And even for the user experience, for most users of Wikipedia pages, the navigation links for sure. I mean, I don't think anyone really clicks on those very often. And, maybe you have a login and, you use some of these once in a while, but for the most part, the links at the top of the page and their navigation play very little role in the user experience and have no SEO value at all. So what does Wikipedia do about that? And it's kind of interesting to take a look at. So if we look at the cached version of the page and then go take a look at the text-only version, what Wikipedia does, you notice in the text-only version, and the text-only is the way that search engine bots are really reading pages. They're looking at the text-only version of the page. But if you take a look at the text-only version of this Wikipedia page, you notice that the navigation is not there. You notice that those login links, all those links that were at the top of the page, they're not there. And where you'll find them is at the very bottom of the page. What Wikipedia is doing is they're putting those links that are less valuable at the end of the code of the page, at the bottom of the page. And then they're using CSS styling to position them where they want. So when you look at the actual rendered version of the page, the links are in a place where it makes sense for users. But the text-only version of the page, what they're doing is they're putting those links that don't really have much SEO value at the end of the page. And that way they're pushing up what really matters for Wikipedia is all their internal links. That's what they want to emphasize. They're emphasizing more, giving more power to these internal links by moving all that other crap to the bottom of the page. And this is something that you can use. Now, obviously, Wikipedia is a kind of a unique case where their navigation doesn't, most sites are not like that, where you need your navigation plays an important role in your site, most likely. But you can still use this idea for your pages. Think about all the links that you see on sites on the top of the header, things like maybe a contact page that really doesn't have an SEO value. Sometimes you even see privacy pages, terms of service pages. Maybe you have a login, depending what type of site you have. You could even argue that maybe social media links aren't really that important. They're important maybe for the user experience, and you want people clicking on them to go follow you. But SEO-wise, it's debatable if those are valuable. Maybe for branding, if you want to try to rank those pages. But all those links in the header, you can learn from Wikipedia and do something similar. This is why SEO should know how to code. You can put those links at the bottom of the page in the code, and they'll show up this way in the text-only version of the page then. But then use CSS styling to put them up in the header, and they look like any other link then. This is also why back, if you remember years ago when sidebars were really popular, and you used to see a lot of pages, especially WordPress sites, that had sidebars over on the right side. Well, the way those sidebars would show up in the code is they were usually at the bottom of the page, right beside the footer. And then through CSS styling, they would show up beside the body. So they would render up here beside the body, but they were actually at the end of the code. And that's why sidebar links were so weak, was they really in the code of the page, they were right above the footer. They didn't have a whole lot of value there. So this is a neat little tip. Like I said, you can learn a lot from tearing apart Wikipedia pages. And this was something I came across probably 12 years ago or longer. And it's an idea that you can use if you have some of those links that really just don't have any SEO value at the top of your page. Or if you have a client as an SEO who has some sort of link maybe to something on their site that you, and they insist on that link being there, and you don't feel that link has any real SEO value, you could do something like this where it still shows up, you keep the client happy, it's at the top of the page, but you use CSS styling and the code in the page to put less importance on that link by putting it near the bottom instead. So that's it. That's the tip for today. Hope you enjoyed it.